Most people think estate planning means just one thing. I have a will, so my family, they're probably covered, right? Not exactly, because a will does not automatically avoid probate. A living will does not distribute your assets, and beneficiary forms can sometimes override what your will says entirely. That is where estate planning gets messy. People use terms they don't think they even understand, terms that can create completely different outcomes for a family. So today, on a brand new episode of the Pursuit of Progress podcast, my co-host Ben and I want to simplify some of the biggest estate planning terms that people confuse all the time. This is not legal advice, but it will help you ask better questions and avoid these common mistakes. Because if you guys own a home, maybe you have kids, retirement accounts, life insurance, or you just simply want your wishes followed.
And I think there's also a really big need for this because when you look at the baby boomer demographic, everyone keeps talking about the biggest wealth transfer in history, and it's getting ready to happen, and it is happening. Both of our parents are baby boomers, and some of that's tied up in real estate, retirement accounts. There can be heirs, there could be beneficiaries, there can be life insurance policies. So even though some of the stuff sounds the same, we're going to go through tonight and really break it down and explain the differences on some of the really key points. So I wanted to start off by talking about a will versus trust. Again, a lot of times people they think will, they think trust, they're thinking the same thing, but radically and very different. This is probably the biggest misconception that people have when talking about will versus trust. A will and a trust are not the same thing. A will gives instructions for what happens after you die. It can name guardians for kids, explain who receives assets, and appoint an executor. But here's the important part. A will still can usually go through probate if there's nothing else set up. A lot of people think, well, I have my will, so my family avoids court after my passing. Well, not necessarily. A trust is very different. A trust is what actually holds assets. And if it's created and funded correctly, certain assets may avoid probate entirely. So that phrase matters, funded correctly, because a trust with no assets inside of it is basically buying a safe and leaving it empty. Simple distinction: a will gives instructions, a trust holds and manages assets. When I set up my revocable living trust, I have a will that is incorporated into the trust. But then I have the actual trust set up. And as I get older and my needs change and my kids grow and get older, I will go through and revise that several times. So you can still revise the will and revise the trust as long as it's a revocable living trust. There's an irrevocable trust as well. And that